There we are. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. It's Franco Panizo and Jose Armando back in the house for the final time in 2023. Look, Jose is very, very pumped. And so are the viewers, because we've got some pretty big numbers. Maybe it's part of the holiday festive joy, but we've got some pretty big numbers here at the start of the show. Apologies to start for not having had a show in a month, but we've been in the festive spirit as well as just been busy running around with, well, in Jose's case, Copa America draws, friendlies, a whole bunch of other planning for 2024. We've got a lot of things in store and a lot of things in mind for you guys. So again, Franco Panizo here, asking for your forgiveness once again for such a long time without a pod. And what pod are we listening to? Well, of course, this is Miami Total Football Radio, the show, or Miami Total Football Radio, the show. That was a good one. For the first one back in a month and the last one of the year, that was a good one. We'll start first with Jose Armando's Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Jose, I'm not going to ask you how you've been. We're going to start with your overall holiday. How was it? What did you do? What did Santa give you? And by Santa, I mean our other co-host who's not here today, Andrea Llanes.
Well, we worked during Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. On Christmas Eve, we had the Dolphins, and on Christmas Day, the Miami Heat. So it was a little bit of an unusual holiday. We were, talking about it. When was the last time that the Dolphins and the Heat had back-to-back games on during Christmas? And that's something to check. But it did happen this year. You never know when it's going to happen again. For that to happen, obviously both teams need to be relevant, or Christmas Eve needs to be on a Sunday, which it was the case this year, so that we have NFL. But nonetheless, I think it was great. We were back home around 10:30, 11 on Christmas Eve, and as you know, we really celebrate Christmas Eve more than Christmas Day. So that was the big day, but still, it was fun. We got some good stuff. Yeah, I can't complain.
So you would be a terrible quote in a press conference, Jose, because the question was, what did you get from Santa Claus, aka Andrea Llanes? Were you on the naughty list or the nice list? And you've completely avoided that question. So either you're intentionally avoiding, or you just missed the question.
No, I just got a lot of things that I wanted, throughout. My birthday is on December 20th.
Come on, Jose. Come on.
I got
happy belated birthday to Jose. Happy belated birthday.
I got FIFA, I got Call of Duty, all the things that I want, all the things that were on my list, I got them. So yeah, I can't complain. It was great.
Nice, very nice. I was with the family. Gifts wise, I mean, I got some colognes, the usual, but I did gift myself some nice things. I got a Nintendo Switch, which I've been wanting for a little bit. I got some new gym sneakers that I've been needing. What else did I get? I got a Jimmy Choo cologne, which that was given to me. It was a nice gift from a dear friend. A Jimmy Choo cologne. It's a nice gift.
Jimmy Choo, is that like the next big thing, or is it big already?
Jose, I think your cologne,
Jimmy Choo?
your brand knowledge is worse than your reggaeton knowledge. So I'll just leave it there. But listen, I hope all the listeners and all the viewers have had a good few weeks since we last did a pod. I hope you guys had good holidays, regardless of which ones you celebrate or don't celebrate. It's good to get back into the flow of things. We will start to get back into a more consistent rhythm because preseason is literally around the corner. It starts effectively on January 10th, as of the last time we had gotten some information. So we've got a lot to talk about since it's been a month since we last spoke on this show. And actually, as a matter of fact, because I have to bring up facts here, Jose has not been on a pod, has not been on a Miami Total Football radio episode since, if not mistaken, October 19th. So more than 2 months ago.
That's like October 3 shows. Come on now. It's like 3 shows. But I'm going to make the commitment to be, a little bit of I mean, I want to be here every week, but, sometimes I just can't. But it's going to happen in 2024.
Busy celebrity, this guy. Such a busy.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen in 2024.
So Strong Frog starting us off here, although he said "Vamos Pani" earlier in the comment section. He says they got Suarez! ! Smiley face. And we've got another comment from Swapnil Saha. Let's go. All right, so let's go. Let's dive right into it because that is the title of this week's pod. That is where we begin because it is the biggest talking point, the most relevant talking point. We will talk about a lot of other things. Julian Gressel, Chris Henderson, the new Inter Miami jersey for 2024, the schedules, preseason and regular season. We're going to talk about all of that. But we're starting with Luis Suarez, el pistolero, the Uruguayan striker. Jose, they finally did it. I mean, it felt, I don't know if you were always as confident, about it happening or not. But for me, ever since last summer when Messi arrived and then Busquets and Alba, and there were the links of Luis Suarez coming and maybe trying to break up his contract with Gremio, I was always convinced that he would be in an Inter Miami jersey. I think you can go back pods, you can go back tweets, or whatever they're called now on X. You can go back and see that. I've always been convinced that he was going to arrive. It's just a matter of when, not if. And alas, here it is. So just your thoughts on it finally becoming official. And what should we expect in 2024 from Luis Suarez?
Yeah, I agree 100% with you. I think we even had a conversation very early on. I think the first comments about Luis Suarez we heard came from Jorge Mas during the summer, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. That little round table interview.
Right.
There was no table in the
locker. And from that moment, we got a sense that it was just a martyr of time.
See, this is what happens when you don't come on a pod in 2 weeks. You're rusty.
Yes.
2 months.
Rusty. It was just a matter of time, and in terms of what we can expect from him next year, I think he's going to score goals. I mean, that's what Luis Suarez is as a football player, and he's going to score goals. That's for sure. I don't think what we saw in Brazil this year with Gremio, I don't think that's far away from what we have seen from Luis Suarez throughout his career. Even when he left Barca and went to Atletico, then the expectation was for his production to come down, and he performed again. I think it's a matter of, can he hold on for the entire season, or is Tata Martino and the coaching staff going to be able to find a way to manage his load, because it seems like the problem for him is physically. He wants to be here. I'm sure he's happy to be playing with Messi and his friends and in MLS. I don't think the league matters as much, just as the fact that he's with his friends back playing together, and maybe for his last year, who knows. I think he's going to score goals. I just think it's on Tata and the rest of the coaching staff to keep him on the field, and for that, they're going to have to make some tough choices. Maybe big game on the road on turf, he doesn't play. It's a big game, but it's not going to play. Long run, it's more important for him to be on the field for a lot of matches throughout the year than win one game that it's a rivalry game per se, something like that. So he's at that point in his career. They really, really need to take care of him.
He did an interview when he was leaving Gremio, his exit interview, and he talked about a lot of the pain he's in his day-to-day. Talked about how hard it is for him to walk and to play with his kids and chase after them. I don't know. I don't know if it's 100% accurate what he said, or if he made it a little more dramatic. I don't know. But, with the way he was scoring goals, and I know he said he's been getting injections and his knee to be able to play. But with the way he was scoring goals in Brazil, I felt like, I could be wrong. I felt like it was a little bit sensationalized in terms of what the shape he's in. I agree with you fully that they will have to manage him over the course of 2024, that he's not going to be an every game starter. Is he going to play in every game? Is he going to travel to every game? Probably not. But he's going to be, I think, the starter when healthy in the most important games, right? Because he's got more experience. He's more of a lethal goal scorer than Leonardo Campana, who's still on the books as of today. So, Luis Suarez is being brought in to score goals. And what he just showed in Brazil is that he can still do that at a high level. Let's not make any mistake about it. The Brazilian league is at a higher level than MLS. My opinion. I don't know if you agree, but
100%.
MLS executives might not agree, but nonetheless, it's a big boost. He's not a DP. He has signed a 1-year deal through the 2024 season. There was no official word in the press release as to if there is an option for 2025. But I imagine if he feels good and he's producing, why not? Why not give it one more year?
And if Messi comes back for next year as well, for 2025.
Messi will be back, Jose. Stop it.
Well, you never know.
You're the only one.
I'm just telling you, if it doesn't decide to come back, then Suarez obviously is going to think twice about doing it. That's my point. That's all. That's my only thing.
Messi is signed through 2025. So
yes.
So
but
I mean, he can get out of the contract.
He can do whatever he wants.
Sure, but I think you're the only person that doesn't think he's going to be here through 2025, at least. At least. Let's listen to Luis Suarez. It is in Spanish. He did not do an interview with media. He did an interview with team official channels. It's in Spanish, but there is translation at the bottom in English. So this is Luis Suarez explaining the reasons why he signed with Inter Miami at this stage in his career.
El proyecto de querer ganar, me gustan los desafíos de querer ganar y creo que es un lindo desafío por la afición, del cual lo que he visto contagia muchísimo, te ilusiona muchísimo y eso te genera mucho entusiasmo para poder competir y bueno, y después obviamente la liga viene creciendo mucho, hay jugadores de alto nivel, no solo Inter Miami, sino que en todos los demás clubes y eso hace una liga muy competitiva que viene creciendo y son desafíos que uno se pone para poder alcanzar esos sueños.
All right,
the typical, right?
So right. So it's a standard stock response talking about how he's here to win and help lift trophies. Which listen, Inter Miami's make no mistake about it. Inter Miami's looking to add to that trophy cabinet in 2024. So that part's true, but it's standard response. Standard response. This is the part that there's a little more meat on the bones, a little more substance to why he also is here. He talked about the reunion with his old teammates / friends, Leo Messi, Sergio Busquets, and Jordi Alba, the 3 former Barcelona teammates of his. Now you have a Barcelona quartet in the house here at Drive Pink Stadium. So, of course, it's impossible not to talk about that. It's obviously a point and a part of why he's here. He was asked about it. This is what he had to say.
Bueno, otra de las decisiones que tomás de Inter son porque tenés amigos y grandes jugadores, no son solo amigos, son jugadores que demuestran en cada partido, a nivel mundial son muy conocidos, está el mejor jugador del mundo y eso te genera una expectativa muy linda y bueno, después de haber compartido muchísimos años con ellos, haber logrado muchas cosas juntos, hace que nos conozcamos, que no necesitamos mucho tiempo para poder conocernos dentro de la cancha y bueno, y creo que por el mismo camino que vinieron ellos, vengo yo de querer ayudar y tener esa ilusión, ese deseo que tienen todos los hinchas de Inter de poder ganar algún título más.
All right, Jose, this is where we get to really sink our teeth because I'm going to ask you one of my favorite types of questions.
Okay.
How much does the friends and having one more opportunity to play with them professionally really factor into this all? If you have to give me a scale of 1 through 100%, how 100%. Much of that is
100%. I mean, I have no doubt in my mind that if Messi was playing for Universitario in Peru, Luis Suarez would be playing for Universitario in Peru this year. I have no doubt in my mind. They just want to be together. They just want to have fun. They just want to have one more year. I mean, I think Messi really enjoyed his time here. I think he's okay with the decision of coming here, and he was able to, it's a short time. It's not a year; it's 6 months. But he was able to experience MLS and the atmosphere here and the day-to-day in South Florida, and I think he added that aspect of not the game but life here in South Florida. And, that was the perfect compliment for Suarez to come over. It's like, we're going to get together, we're going to get to see each other once again. When Suarez left Barca, that was one of the talking points, Messi being away from Suarez. So now they get the reunion. Then there's Busquets, there's Jordi. Yeah, look, I've had this conversation a lot. And people like to tell me that Messi doesn't have an influence on who comes to the team. Sort of good players. It's just a coincidence that he comes over. Messi doesn't get into that aspect of the team. He might not go directly to Chris Henderson and write him a note and tell him, look, this is the list of players that I want. But he might talk to his father, and his father does the work for him. But there's somewhere, somehow, a connection between the players that are signing for Inter Miami and Messi and what he wants and who he wants to play with in Inter Miami. So I think, to me, that's pretty clear.
So, it's obvious that this is a major factor in the decision, right? Like, yes, the weather here is nice. Yes, Inter Miami, was competitive last year from a performance standpoint in terms of once Messi arrived. They were a bit more competitive in they won the League's Cup. They made it to the Open Cup final. They were already on their way there. Maybe in league play, they weren't as good as they should have been, but the building blocks were getting put in place for this year, which is expected to be the big year, the boom with Messi and co. So when it comes to Suarez, yes, all of that is appealing. But the biggest factor is he wants to be in those pictures, man, with Jorge Mas and David Beckham at Gecko in Miami next to Leo Messi and Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba and the wives. When I saw those pictures last year, those three and Jorge Mas, David Beckham, and all their wives, and I was like, Luis Suarez, I used to jokingly think this in my head. I was like, Luis Suarez must be in Brazil being like, man, I should be in that picture in Miami. And now he's here. The friends part is a massive part in all of this. And one thing that I appreciated and I liked is normally teams, they try to stick to the PR and he's here to win and he's a winner. He's done it all with the Uruguay national team. And sure, there was an element of that here with the announcement and how he talked about his accolades and rightfully so. But they also, in making the announcement, posted a picture of 4 kids with the jerseys of Busquets, Alba, Suarez, and Messi. They went right into the point of, yes, it's a reunion, and that's a big factor of why they're here. There you go. See, there it is. You can see the 4 kids just sitting there in one of the training fields at Drive Pink Stadium. Can we confirm? Does anybody know if these are their actual kids? I think it is, right?
I think they are. What makes me think they are is, Busquets' son, because I think I've seen them a couple of times and he looks familiar. So I think so. It's a good idea, but at the same time, it reinforces, the thought that, they're getting together as friends. And, you're going to get some criticism out of it because is it the right decision, for them just to be back together so many years apart from what they did in Barcelona when they were really successful? I don't know. I think it's nice, but at the same time, if, when the time comes and if results are not there for this team, then, people are going to start thinking, well, this is just Messi for his friends and, they don't care about it.
There's no doubt that criticism is going to pop up at some point. Yeah. I don't know if it's going to come up from us, but it's going to come up at some point where when the team maybe doesn't hit the results they need to hit in a stretch, that people are going to be like, oh, well, look, that's what happens when you build a team of friends as opposed to a team of players that are supposed to compete. But listen, and you see it here from Princess Shorty, obviously a bit of a joke, tongue-in-cheek, vamos Inter Barcelona here in the comment section. But look, the level that they're at, and obviously 4 players don't make a team, but the level that they're at are really going to boost Inter Miami's chances of winning something of significance in 2024. I'm convinced of that. I don't think there's any other way to look at it. Now, could you make the argument that they're all older? Are they going to hold up? Are their bodies going to? Is it a good idea to put players that build around that many players who are at the twilight of their careers? I mean, I can hear that argument, but I still think if you have the opportunity to sign 4 players like that, I mean, you don't hesitate, especially if centerpiece is little.
But
Messi, right? This is the NYCFC in 2015 when they signed Frank Lampard, Andrea Pirlo, and David Villa. And I mean, the only one out of those 3 that was really, really never up to snuff was Andrea Pirlo because he was just didn't have the legs for MLS. I mean, I think this is a different circumstance, different contexto, un contexto diferente, and I think it's going to pay out. I think it's going to pay off. Sorry. Now, to what extent, we'll see. And that's the question I have for you here, my friend. That's the next question. And I don't want a long answer. And before I even ask the question, I have to preface this because last year when I asked you a similar question, I think I put out my worst take in the history of Miami Total Football Radio. My worst take, not the worst take ever, because you've had some crazy ones. But it was definitely my worst take. I think I just got caught up in the euphoria of the announcement and didn't get to really look at it from a more clear-cut perspective as maybe I should have. And that was that Joseph Martinez was going to come in and score X amount of goals. And I think I said over 15 or maybe 20.
That was bad.
That was, especially on a Phil Neville team, right? So I didn't, I think I got carried away. I think I didn't look at it objectively enough or analytically enough is probably the better way to say that. So, so the question now, Luis Suarez. I don't want to just say regular season because, I mean, again, he's not just going to play regular season. He's going to play other competitions. There's so many games. We can talk about that later.
And just to make it clear, we can't judge this team on the regular season. We have to judge this team on the year as a whole. The regular season, for me at least.
But this team has to win MLS Cup. So this team
they have to win it. But if they get in 5th or 4th place because they needed to sacrifice stuff, for other competitions, that's fine. So I don't want to. I think we need to take the whole year into account here. But go ahead. I think I know where you're going.
The question is very simple. How many goals does Luis Suarez score across all competitions in 2024? I know it's early days. We haven't even seen him kick a ball.
Yeah, no, but this is fun.
Yet.
Yeah.
But this is the exercise. So next year, a year from now, I can make fun of you for saying whatever number you said. Because I don't think he's going to top my Joseph Martinez. I think I said 15. I think I said 20. I don't know. I definitely got carried away.
Yeah, I was right about Joseph, by the way. Okay, so look, I think he will score over 15 goals in 2024.
That's it? 15?
Yeah, over 15.
How about 20? Over 20?
No, I don't think he'll score over 20. But he'll score anywhere between 15 and 20 goals, not over 20.
I'm going to go big again here. And this time I feel much more confident. It's not about Luis Suarez, not Joseph Martinez.
It's a completely different player. So
no offense to Joseph Martinez, but Luis Suarez's pedigree and his track record, su trayectoria speaks for itself. Habla por sí mismo. I think he goes 20 plus in all competitions, not in MLS regular season, but in all competitions.
No.
Now, to push the envelope a little bit further, does he get 25 or more in all competitions? And I think that's the more the line. I think that's where if you're placing bets, I think that's the real good shout. Dude, he's going to crush MLS defenses. He's going. All you need to do is give him half his space, and he's scoring one goal here. He's going to get a header there. He's savvy. He's a wily veteran. Astuto. Even on he goes on the border sometimes. I think he's going to have a tremendous season so long as he can stay healthy. That is the
that's why
if he stays healthy. Then it's going to be a big year.
And that's why I don't think he goes over 20, because I don't think he can play every single game. Even though in that same interview that you talked about early on, he did mention that he really needs to stay on the field. I mean, he really needs to stay active. He's not the type of player like Messi that, likes to rest over the week. He wants to train every single day. He wants to be out there. Now, it's one thing to say it from the comfort of your home, and then it's a completely different scenario when it comes to June in South Florida, and you have to be out there. It's taxing for. I mean, we've seen it with Karen Gibbs. We saw it with Lewis Morgan early. I think we still. I mean, we see it still with Christoph. I mean, it's going to be a challenge. So I don't think he plays a lot, and that's why I think he gets to anywhere between 15 and 20.
So a lot of minutes for Leo Campana, all the same this year.
Yeah, Campana will get some of it. I'm having a tough time when it comes to Campana and figuring out what his role is going to be and how effective he can be.
He's going to be the starter. He's going to be the guy that does the dirty work. That's playing in those summer games in the middle of the season. That's giving Suarez a rest when Suarez needs a rest. I mean, Campana will do a lot of the grind, but he's not going to get a lot of the glamour. The glamour is going to go to Suarez, right. But Campana's going to be the one that's it's going to be tasked with grinding through this year, grinding through this season. I'm convinced of that. By the way, Princess Shorty with another gem in the comment section. I love that Franco turned into an auctioneer. Do I hear 15? Okay, go. Okay, 15. So I hear 20. We got 20. What about 25? That's funny. See, the comment section that stayed on point. See,
solid.
They're not rusty.
Always.
You and I, a bit rusty. And I think Campana plays a massive part. I think he plays
but that's not an easy role, Franco. I mean, that's not easy. And Campana, I don't want to say he's young, but he doesn't have a lot of experience playing that role. So I think he needs to start every now and then, but not just one game because Suarez is not available. He's going to work hard and he's going to deserve to start at some point. And it's going to get to him mentally, the fact that he's only starting because Suarez is not available.
That's where Tata Martino is going to have to manage that.
Right. But it's not on Tata at the same time. That's pretty obvious. I mean, we know it. And we don't train with them, but he's going to have to realize that his role is different now, even though if it's, having great training sessions.
Is it going to be any different than when Higuain was here in 2022?
Yes, it is going to be different because at that point, it was a different Campana. Campana was just looking for an opportunity. And when he grabbed the starting role and took over Pipa, that was a big moment for him. That was a big moment. It was a little bit of an unexpected thing as well. And that's what, made him deserve what he has right now, which, he's important. People have high expectations of him here in Inter Miami. So I think the mental part of the game is going to be a bigger challenge for him because it's not easy, to put out a good performance all the week during training session and just know that it doesn't matter what you do, it's going to be Suarez who's going to be starting if he's available. And if he's not, then that's your chance.
If I had to divvy up what I think the starting odds are, between both of them, right? Because there'll be probably somebody else that gets starts here and there up top. But I would say around 60-40 in Campana's favor. Campana's going to start more games. He's younger. He's fresher. He's going to have more opportunity to.
I don't know. You're telling me that Campana will start 6 out of every 10 games for Inter Miami? I think Suarez is going to miss games. Over the course of the
season, I mean, it's Luis Suarez going to be starting in the MLS's first round in the U.S. Open Cup. No,
but
is he going to be starting against? I'm just picking up a random team.
But those are obvious. I mean,
is he going to start against the Houston Dynamo on a hot day in Texas in the summer? I don't know if Inter Miami. I have to look at the schedule again to see if Inter Miami plays Houston. But just as an example, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity where they're going to manage Suarez and where Campana is going to get his role. Again, it's not going to be the glamorous role where, hey, if they're playing a cup semifinal or a cup final this weekend, that he's likely to start unless he's in that much better form.
But I don't think that's the right approach, though.
But I think that's just going to be the reality of the situation, and he's going to either have to accept it and adapt and do the best he can to be a team player, and then figure out what his future is after this year. or he's gonna
I don't know.
sink, and then I mean that's why I think Tata's role will also play an important part in how he manages that. Look, there's nothing says to me more that's what's going to be the case than this picture right here. This picture right here, Luis Suarez holding up his Inter Miami jersey. He has been given the number 9. Now we don't have the story for how that happened. We don't know if Campana gave it up, if Suarez did a favor. We don't know how it's happened that he's gotten the number 9, but Suarez has the number 9, so Campana will be changing numbers again. So,
supposedly, and according to an interview that Campana gave in Ecuador, and I apologize because I don't remember the outlet.
Shame on you.
Yes, I should remember this. But Campana said that Luis Suarez actually called him to ask for the number 9, and he agreed. Yeah, I know in baseball, you're supposed to give something to the player that you're taking the number from. I don't know if that happened, but whatever. I think Campana will be happy just with the call. I would be too happy with a call as well. So, and in that interview, by the way, Campana mentioned that he did receive some offers during the offseason from Greece, Mexico, and there's some other country that I can't remember right now. Rusty, very rusty. So yeah, I mean, if that conversation happened, I think that's a good step. That's a good start, because what I thought immediately, oh my God, Campana is going to come to preseason. He's going to think that number 9 is still his. And guess what? No, it's Suarez's number now. But I want to go back to the number of games that I think Suarez will start. I think Suarez will start, comparing with Campana, Suarez will start 7 out of 10 matches, and then the 3 matches will be whether Campana is available or not. Maybe Facundo Farias. I don't think
chance. I don't
think Messi is gonna allow that. He's not gonna want to see Suarez on the bench, just waiting waiting and waiting.
Listen, you said it earlier. It's the long game. The games that matter are at the end of the year. That's when you need Suarez. You don't need Suarez in May for a home game against.
I happen to agree that both Messi and Suarez will miss a lot of games early on, because I think they both want to be in Copa America. They want to play Copa America, and that's the priority. At least for Messi, I think that's pretty clear. I don't know for Suarez, because for Suarez, it's a grind for him to get into the roster, right? I mean, it's harder for him to get minutes with Uruguay than it is obviously for Messi to get minutes with Argentina. So I think Messi 100% will be thinking Copa America from the first day of preseason. And
he's already thinking about it. Did you not see the gym picture he posted with his wife today? He's looking all jacked. He's going to the gym, lifting weights. Messi looking strong. He's looking like he's ready to take on some Walker Zimmermans out there.
What? No, come on. He's thinking about Copa America.
Okay. Listen. I think part of it is his age. I think he's also just trying to adapt and reinvent himself. It's not the same Messi.
You think he's getting ready for FC Dallas and Nashville?
He's getting ready for the year. Come on. Alonso Alinka in the comment section. My friend Panizo, Goat Suarez and Messi, 100 goals.
Alonso, please tell him that Messi cares a lot more about Copa America than about Nashville
care a lot more.
I'm not week 3 of the MLS regular season. Please tell him.
I think it's about taking care of himself, taking care of his body in general. MLS is a very physical league. Center backs are very physical. I think he's preparing himself for the year. It's not like he's not going to be playing on an almost weekly basis, right? Or sometimes where he's going to play 2 games in a week. So he's got to prepare himself.
I think we saw it happen this year already. He really took care of himself because he wanted to be with the national team in the FIFA window. It was a mistake probably from Tata to play him in that Toronto FC match. Yeah, maybe it was a mistake. But right after that happened, he was thinking about the national team. And I can completely understand that. Inter Miami can't be a priority for him. I mean, the national team is a national team. He's a world champion. He probably has under 10 games with the national team in his career.
And I think that's why I think something you're not emphasizing or thinking enough about in your opinion on how many goals Suarez scores. Because there's going to be just, those, I don't even want to say 50-50 balls. I mean, there's going to be just those balls that pop into the area that you wouldn't think much of, but because he's Suarez, he's going to put those in the back of the net. Some of those plays are going to end up in goals. But you've forgotten to mention that he's going to have Lil Messi feeding him. Messi's going to draw so much attention that's going to open up a lot of space for Luis Suarez. And
yeah,
I think you're really undershooting. But we'll talk in a year.
Right. Yeah.
I think you're really undershooting that he's not going to score more than 20 goals. You've said 15 or so. I'm saying
anywhere
over
between
20.
15 and 20. Yeah. He doesn't go over 20.
No. It's either 20 and up or less than 20. You can't give me 20. 20 is like the line.
No, okay, less than 20. Yeah. That's fine.
So he scores less than 20 with Messi
less than 20 goals
in MLS. Okay.
Yeah.
I think he scores over 20, and if I have to bet, and maybe again a year from now I'll eat crow, I think he scores over 25. I think he's going to feast on these MLS defenses. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, he's going to have a party. That's for sure.
No doubt about it. Unless he gets suspended because of VAR, because he does antics off the ball or something. That's just something that can also get him in trouble, which we haven't really talked about here. But before we go into any more of that, I want to hear or share his quote on his present state, because obviously, let's talk about the knees and if he's healthy, et cetera, et cetera. Again, he's had a great season in Brazil, a great year in Brazil. This is what he talked about when he was asked about his present day.
Vengo de Brasil, de una liga muy competitiva, de cual a nivel personal y a nivel de club no me puedo quejar. Tuvimos un año increíble y bueno, es una demostración más de que estoy bien, tanto futbolísticamente como físicamente, y eso me hace sentirme con muchísimas ganas de querer comenzar la 2024 ya. Creo que queda muy poco para volver a empezar y bueno, creo que son lindas posibilidades que me da el Inter para poder seguir demostrando de que puedo seguir haciendo grandes cosas en el fútbol y hacer crecer a Inter.
All right, no, we're back. Let's see. We'll see what happens with Luis Suarez. We'll see how many goals he puts into the back of the net. I'm convinced he's going to have a great year, and that's going to really bode well for Inter Miami's chances. I don't think he starts every game. I think Campana is going to be the workhorse. Maybe that's the best way. He's going to be the one tasked with grinding through the less glamorous games. But the big games, the more important games, the games where there's more on the line, that's where Luis Suarez, if he's healthy, is going to be starting, in my opinion.
So what if Campana goes in a scoring run? Starts, 3 matches.
And that's why I'm saying Tata Martino's role in all of this and how he manages it all is going to be a big factor in how everything plays out. Because if Campana's on a good run of form, like you said, but they have, Open Cup quarterfinals, I mean, I guess that's a little bit easier. He could probably go Campana. But let's say, I don't know, they're playing the League's Cup.
Open Cup is not the problem, because Open Cup can be anywhere between 1 game and 7. I mean, less than that.
Let's say it's the fall, and they're heading into the playoffs, first round of the playoffs, or whatever round of the playoffs they're in. And Campana has scored 3 goals in his last 4 games. Suarez has scored 1. I mean, that's where he's going to have to make the decision. That's where Tata gets paid to make the decision of, do I go with the hot hand? Or do I go with the guy who has la trayectoria, the track record, the pedigree, the know-how?
And is Messi going to get upset?
It's going to make for some great talking points. I can already guarantee you that between fans, between media. It's going to be like, oh, should he start this? Should he start? Campana start? No way, Campana should start. Should it be Suarez? But Suarez hasn't scored. It's going to make for some great.
Everybody's going to want
conversation.
At least fans. Everybody's going to want to. Fans are going to want Suarez to start.
Not necessarily. If Suarez is not, if Suarez isn't showing it, listen. You're only as good as your last game. People will remember you for your last game.
But that's in a regular. That's in a normal football atmosphere. You have to remember that Inter Miami right now, it's a situation where people buy tickets and spend a lot of money to watch the big names.
Right, but
I think over 80% of the people that go to the stadium, they just want to pay a lot of money to see Messi and
sure, but
Suarez
Jose,
together.
the conversation around the team's not going to be, the fans that are coming and going. That's not going to be the biggest talking point when it comes to results and how they're doing. The biggest talking point, they're going to be like, all right, who's playing well, who's not playing well, why is the team doing this well, why is the team not doing this well, who should be starting, who should be coming out, like it is every year, Jose. The talking point of the fans and all that's extra, that's surplus, that's over there. That's stuff we will talk about, I'm sure, but it's not like the main points. The main points will be from much of the fan base: should this guy be starting or this guy be starting? From the people that are really invested and are following the team on the day-to-day. I think this year,
I agree with you.
This year is going to be big. This year's going to be big. All right, let's quickly change gears. We've talked about Suarez for a good minute. I don't think we've talked enough about Suarez and Messi together as attacking tandem, but we'll have plenty more episodes and shows to talk about that shortly. Quickly, let's go into the regular season and preseason schedules because we have games. We officially have games announced, and we have a bunch of games announced. We'll start with preseason. Here is the preseason schedule as of today. Inter Miami is going to go play El Salvador's national team on January 19th. Then they travel to Saudi Arabia to play in 2 friendlies over there, including the game against Cristiano Ronaldo's Al Nassr. So that game officially is happening. Last pod, Andrea and I did. It was rumored. Inter Miami put out a statement, but it wasn't set in stone just yet. Well, now it's official. We'll see Messi versus Ronaldo one more time at least if they stay healthy and if everything comes to plan. You're going to bet that the marketing and the PR around that is going to be into light years space or light year speed, or it's just going to be in the stratosphere. After that, they go to Hong Kong to play like a Hong Kong All-Star team. After that, they go to Tokyo in Japan to play Vissel Kobe on February 7th, and they round out preseason on February 15th against Newell's Old Boys at Drive-In Stadium in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Only one game at home, right? And they're playing a busy stretch there. January 29th through February 7th, they're playing 4 games and, what is that, a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. And it's going to be a lot of miles. This was a question you had for Chris Henderson in our end-of-year availability, our end-of-year press conference with him about, the commercial opportunities versus the sporting opportunities. And Chris Henderson gave, I think you might have asked that too, but, they talked about how they have to balance that out and yada, yada, yada. They did not balance that out at all. The commercial side, the business side won over the sporting side by far. I think it's a very fair question for anyone to say or to ask, has Inter Miami taken the wrong approach here? Because they are going to have a lot of miles before what is the start of a very busy and important year for the team. I get why they did it. I get, from a financial standpoint and a marketing standpoint, and I get why, but I don't agree with that decision. I think, yes, you could have had a quick tour or a quicker tour in Asia or in the Middle East, but then gotten back home and spent a little more time here in South Florida. This preseason schedule is very much made to make a lot of money, to draw a lot of attention, and that is not prioritizing the sporting side of things, which I think will not help Inter Miami. I don't know if it'll hurt Inter Miami in the start of the season.
No, it will hurt them.
I don't think it's going to help them necessarily.
It will hurt them. I mean, preseason is very important. It's very, very important. And, all the traveling is something that, Jordi, Messi, and Suarez and all the big guns might be used to, because there's always conversation about, European teams coming to United States for preseason, and they get a lot of criticism for that. So I think it's going to hurt them early on in the season. I think that's where they're going to, have a little bit of trouble with it, because this is not a normal preseason. I mean, all the traveling, it's going to be really hard for Inter Miami to have 2 sessions on very often during preseason, which is something that's normal. They usually work in the morning and then they come back in the afternoon, maybe play an inter squad game late during the day. I don't think that's going to happen this year. I mean, so it's going to hurt them. It's going to be difficult early on, but if they don't get any injuries, then I think they'll be fine. They'll get back into it. There's obviously not complaining aloud from Tata Martino about his team not being ready and having a lot of games this year. He can't complain about that anymore. He can't complain about that because he has had enough time to build a solid roster, and also at the same time he's sacrificing the most important time of the year.
But no, time out. Hold on. Is he sacrificing it, Jose? Because I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's Tata Martino's call. Like, as much as
he's part of Inter Miami.
Sure, but I don't think it's his call. And I think the powers that be above him are gonna say, hey, look, we get that this is what you want, but this is what we need. This is what we're gonna do. This is what's come from up above, potentially from the ownership. So I don't think it's his call. I think if it was his call, you would see more games, if not in South Florida, at least in the United States. I think that would be, if he had his way. But this schedule, this preseason schedule, screams to me marketing, PR.
Oh, but we now know the reason why they struggle. That's what I'm talking about. When he comes to us, and for whatever happens in the first 5 games, let's say they win 1 out of the first 5 games in the regular season, and he comes to us like, oh, well, we didn't have a good preseason. I mean, we know that already. I mean, he's in a position where you just can't put out excuses.
No, but I don't think it's fair to him to say that it's up to, like, he doesn't control the preseason schedule. He's not the one saying, all right, we're going to go here. I don't think that was like, let's go play Cristiano Ronaldo and Al-Nassr because that's going to be a very good test for our team in 2024. Like,
well, then he probably needs to come out and say it. It was not my decision.
It's MLS.
Then he's going to have to back him up. He's going to have to back it up.
Just like he did in the fall here when Messi was injured, he's going to have to pin himself in a corner publicly. I mean, I'm really, really looking forward. And when the games were starting to be announced, and I kept a list of all the games, and I kept updating it with every game that was officially announced. It was an away game. They were all away games. The last one that was finally announced was the home game against Newell's Old Boy. I mean, I've just called it the frequent flyer miles from Inter Miami. I've called it Travel Plus, whatever you want to call it. It's definitely not a preseason schedule made to emphasize the sporting side. And when the games were being announced, I thought, I can't wait to hear publicly when they're finally asked about it from one of us in a scrum or in a press conference, what they have to say. I'm sure they've already manicured the response and saying we're playing international competition and it's really good. And yes, there's going to be some travel, but we're taking first-rate airplanes and flights and super incredible accommodations. The players are going to be comfortable. They're going to have massages at their beck and call. Like, I already know. I can't wait to hear what they actually say, but it's going to be something along those lines. And Simon Evans here, our other usual co-host, says Franco's travel budget for preseason, better start a Patreon, man. Look, honestly, I'm not going to lie. I was this close to booking to El Salvador. It was surprisingly cheap round trip out of Miami. I did not pull the trigger because I've got something else going on those days, unfortunately. So I won't be there in El Salvador. I was very, very tempted. I tried to recruit Jose and Andrea to come with me, but they've got some work stuff calling them though here in South Florida, whereas I have just some personal life stuff calling me. Shout out to that game falling on January 19th, by the way. That was the biggest blow to my opportunity of heading to El Salvador for the first time in my life. But look, this is going back to the point. This is spot on, I think, from always pessimistic Ralph Lucarella. Inter Miami are the old New York Cosmos. It's all about the stars, period. And there's absolutely an element of that here. Again, I understand why, like you can understand why, but we don't agree with that because you could have built a different preseason schedule that emphasized a little bit more of the sporting side. And if Inter Miami gets off to a slow start, the players start dropping with injuries, if this isn't managed in a very good way, the fingers are going to go back to, I don't know if they're going to go to Tata, they're going to go to just the team in general for prioritizing the wrong things. And I think it is a big risk. And I get why, again, money. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with it. I get it, but I think they're taking a big, big risk, especially for what this year's supposed to be. It is a massive year for Inter Miami, and they could be playing well into late fall, early winter if everything goes according to plan. So I think it's a big risk that they're taking there.
Yeah, I think it's gonna hurt them. I have no doubt that they can recover from it, even if players go down. I mean, usually when you don't have a good preseason, that doesn't necessarily translates into bad results because anything can happen in any given game. Especially now with VAR, you can win a game late that you're not supposed to, but yet you do. But it's about injuries. That's the main thing. When you're not prepared for a season, as long as it is in MLS, and especially for Inter Miami, and how taxing that the season can be this year mentally for the players as well. I think that's where preseason is going to hurt them more than anything else. Just not having a real preseason, because this is not preseason. This is I mean, if we go back to next year, and obviously that's a completely different scenario, but Inter Miami, they basically had a week or two away. You remember
look at that. Look at this. Look at this for this year. Right? They play January 19th. Okay, they don't have another game till January 29th. But from January 29th to February 7th, they're essentially playing every 3 days. February 1st, February 4th, February 7th. So in that span, there's no way that they're going to have, preferred starting lineups out there every game. And that's where you're going to miss some of the opportunities to have those repetitions and to have those those sessions together that you would normally otherwise. So I think, it's going to not help them. I don't know if it'll hurt them a whole lot. It just depends on how the team does, if they stay healthy. But I don't think it helps them in a big way.
But you kind of have to play Messi, though. You kind of have to play Messi.
You don't think it's written in those contracts that Messi has to play X amount of minutes?
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's written in those contracts.
Play.
There's no doubt about that in my mind. Not inside information, my supposition, but I don't think you can doubt any chance. Maybe there's one game he doesn't play somewhere, but I doubt it. I mean, he's the big ticket item. He's the reason why a lot of people are spending that money. Now, again, as we saw in MLS, just because you buy a ticket doesn't mean that a player is guaranteed to play. But because these are preseason friendlies and there's all these different marketing and financial elements to it all, I think that that's going to be written in the contract that, hey, if he's healthy, he's got to play at least X amount of minutes, right? Like that's
of course,
big reason.
Of course. And listen, if I was paying for Messi to come over and play my team, I'm 100% sure that I need Messi on the field that day. So I mean,
they're going to the other side of the world for people to see Messi. This team that that Messi plays on. They'll be like, oh, Inter Miami. Okay, it's to grow the brand. No doubt about it. Inter Miami has even talked about that publicly. This is to grow the brand. So yes, but it's going to be Messi's team. It's Messi's team.
That part of the conversation for me remains to be seen. Just because growing of the brand, I think I will 100% believe that's the case once Messi leaves and still Inter Miami gets to go and play.
If Inter Miami,
El Salvador will go and play in Japan, in Tokyo.
We're gonna get sidetracked here. But
yes.
I've traveled to a good bit of South America and Central America in the last few months.
Yes,
and I've seen Messi jerseys everywhere. Now that's Latin America, where Messi's.
Have you seen any Campana jerseys? Have you seen any Campana jerseys?
Oh, but don't forget, Inter Miami is going into its 5th season. So it's not just necessarily about, again, for Inter Miami, it's not just about the on-field product. It's about getting those pink jerseys out there, those black, making themselves a more recognizable brand. It's not necessarily about, are these all going to be diehard fans? No, probably not. But if people can recognize a pink jersey and say, that's Inter Miami on a more global level, then I think that's what Inter Miami is looking for. I think that's
the question. That's the question. The question. I just happen to believe people see that as Messi's jersey, not as Inter Miami's jersey.
Sure, but 10 years from now,
once Messi moves away from it, and if Messi goes and plays, in 2026 for Pachuca and Liga MX, you'll see Pachuca jerseys all over the world.
No, Jose. 10 years from now,
and it will be Messi. It's Messi's team.
10 years from now. 10 years from now, if you see that pink jersey, I'm convinced that a lot of people will know what it is. Whether it's a Messi jersey, whether it's somebody else, you just see that pink jersey 10 years from now because of what we are living right now. people will recognize it. Just like when you see, I mean, it's not the same. Maybe it's a terrible comparison.
They will
But
recognize
if you
it
see the
as
NY
Messi's
on a
team.
hat, if you see the NY on a hat, you know it's the Yankees, right? Because that
No,
brand.
don't compare. I mean, come on, don't compare Inter Miami to the Yankees.
If you see the NY, you know it's the Yankees. Yes or no?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So 10 years from now, after Messi's done his thing and had his stint here, you don't think people can recognize a pink jersey? A pink jersey is a pink jersey. I mean, there's not that many pink shirts out there in the world that you see commonly anywhere, right? A blue hat you could see anywhere. But
yes.
So I think that's what they're going for. And this is part of what they're trying to.
So what's the next jersey? When Messi leaves, what are the jerseys that are going to be sold worldwide? Do you think the Venja Kremaski jersey is going to be sold worldwide just because he's an Inter
It's
Miami
about the
player?
jersey. It's about the name it's about the crest on the front, not the name on the back.
Really?
In 10 years, when Messi's not here, it's not about this. It's about people recognizing the front side.
That's what I think it's not going to happen. That's what I think it's not going to happen.
I disagree. And Carlos Moreno here in the comment section, and I agree. After Leagues Cup, the jersey is already recognizable. It was on every major.
Absolutely. Right now, yes. Everybody wants that jersey right now. My thing is,
but people, it's not about wanting. It's about remembering what that is. If you see a pink top down the street, and it could just be a collared shirt that somebody's wearing from Calvin Klein, or it could be Lacoste, or it could be Polo, whatever you want to call it. But you're going to think Inter Miami. You'll be like, is that Inter Miami jersey? Oh, no, it's not.
Is that Messi's jersey? People are going to say.
No.
Does that have a 10 in the back? They're going to be like, no, it doesn't have a 10 in the back.
I'm not going to lie, man. Every time,
9.
I'm not going to lie. Since he's arrived, Inter Miami jerseys here in South Florida, they're just everywhere now. Everywhere.
Yeah.
You see people wearing them casually everywhere. And exactly. If you go back, a few years, you didn't really see that many Inter Miami jerseys.
No,
unless you were going to an Inter Miami game or Inter Miami event, you didn't see randomly Inter Miami jerseys littered and throughout just public places in South Florida. Now you see it anytime you go out, almost.
Every soccer-related event in the world has at least an Inter Miami jersey. But I still believe that happens because of Messi. And I don't know if that's going to happen after the Messi era here in South Florida. Just don't know. I don't think so. It might happen. You never know. But I don't think that will happen.
Well, we're going to cut through what I had planned to be like a schedule talk, but maybe it's good to cut it up here with some more jersey talk, Jose, because I know you love to talk about jerseys. Actually, Steve Brenner hated talking about jerseys. I think you'll have a little more fun. You're more into the soccer culture aspect of the beautiful game as opposed to just the X's and O's. I love the X's and O's, but I love the global culture or the culture that the beautiful game has globally. So there's this thing that apparently is going to be what Inter Miami's home jersey will look like in 2024. Now, been different pictures. Hold on. Different pictures have come out. There's been different shades of pink. Some people have said it's going to be a salmon pink like you're seeing here. Some people have said it's going to be more of a traditional pink. I think it's going to be a new shade of pink, and I'll say why later. But the biggest talking point, besides the shade of pink, is the design. You got the Royal Caribbean logo, which is the new team sponsor on the kit, and that's in the center, like normal. But on top of it, you've got the crest. And on top of the crest, you have the Adidas logo. Everything is vertical in this jersey, reportedly. Jose, please give me your thoughts. Do you love this? Do you hate this? And why?
I don't hate it, but I don't like it.
Oh, sorry, while you say that, Carlos Moreno says, that's hideous. And Princess Shorty says, the F is that.
Yeah, it seems more like a training jersey, doesn't it?
Princess Shorty also adds, Jose, you hate it.
Probably, yeah.
It is atrocious, man. Carlos Moreno says vertical logos were popular in the 90s for a spell, but does appropriately.
I don't like it.
I think it's hideous. I think it's atrocious. They can maybe salvage it a bit if they change the shade of pink from that salmon. It looks like a tuna roll that you might get on a sushi roll at some restaurant. I mean, the shade of pink doesn't look great. There's been other pictures where the shade of pink was different, which looked better, but the vertical, it looks awful. And I jokingly tweeted out when that image came out. They're from Footy Headlines, by the way. I know it was in the image, but I didn't mention it. Footy Headlines, ever reliable when it comes to leaking jersey information and jersey designs. I jokingly said, I look forward to the moment where Leo Messi scores the game-winning golazo in extra time of the CONCACAF Champions Cup to send Inter Miami to a Mundial de Clubes, to the Club World Cup. And he goes to kiss the crest on his left chest, and rather than kissing the crest because it's not there, he ends up kissing vast reddish-pink space. Now, obviously, that's tongue-in-cheek, but you get the idea. I think it's a hideous look. Very, very disappointed with this jersey. I'm big on talking about jerseys because, it is a big talking point for fans and for a team, and the talking point around a team every year when they release a new jersey or new jerseys. Do people like them? Do people not like them? Of course, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I'm sure it'll still sell like hotcakes because Messi is on Inter Miami, and now so is Luis Suarez. So it's going to sell a bunch. It'll probably break a lot of records, but that thing is hideous, man. If they would have left it traditional, I think it would have been more passable. I think it's ugly. Very ugly. Very ugly.
Have we seen any more reports on this? Because I know they're usually very good.
So I'll say this. We spoke to a club official last winter in February, right before the season started. I don't know if you remember this.
Yes.
And we talked about jerseys. And one of the questions I had then, and I've been meaning to write something on it because I've been holding on to that quote for forever. I have it in my phone in video format, meaning to put it out. I asked him if Inter Miami was going to continue to change the shade of pink that they use, or if the plan was to start to get some consistency with the pink this pink that they started to use. And he said the plan is for them to continue to adapt different shades of pink. It's not to have a consistent pink week in or year in and year out. And I think you can see that, even though it might be a little hard to tell here, but this shade of pink is brighter and bolder than this shade of pink. And the one that's supposed to come out this year is going to apparently look even more different. So it's part of their strategy. They want to sell jerseys. Yes, they want to own pink, but they also want to make a lot of money. And if they put out a pink like this every year, well, then what incentive does that really make you, a consumer, you, a fan? How much more incentive does that make it for you to want to go buy it, right? Like, unless the design is so incredible, you're probably not going to get it again because these jerseys are not going for cheap. So they're going with drastic changes. That's why we've seen, how many different shades of pink since 2020 when Inter Miami started. Either it's on training tops, jerseys, et cetera, et cetera. We've seen different shades of pink. Remember the first year? And I know there was Adidas issues there, but the shade of pink that they had in year one, well, everyone was excited because it was La Rosa Negra, and it was pink at last. There's a team with pink, and that shade of pink is hideous. If you compare that top, you look at that top and you compare it to everything else that has followed, it's almost white. It is hideous. Yes. Everyone was just so excited to finally see pink that everyone was like, all right, it's cool. But it even back then, I used to tell my friends and my family, and I think I would even say maybe a few times we talked about it on the pod, that it looked terrible. It was a weak shade of pink. It wasn't bold enough. In pictures you could see that it almost looked white. So, but it's Inter Miami's approach. It's Inter Miami's approach.
How about some of the other MLS teams? Are they? Have we seen any of the jerseys for them? Because as you know, they're all the same in MLS. So
not always. They're trying to do a little different. They're trying to make it a little more like abstract art for each one. They're trying. They're all made by Adidas because of the deal.
Well, if there's one team that they need to do something different for, it should be Messi's team.
Well,
right?
There is, and I don't have the image here. We'll save that for maybe next week's pod or the first pod of 2024. There is, of course, talk of Inter Miami getting There's talk of Inter Miami getting a third jersey for the first time this year. And obviously when you have Messi, makes sense. Well, when you haven't seen these reports, Jose?
Yes, but this thing that you showed right now, that could go, anywhere. except
this
on the field, and the
this
other two.
this third kit that they'll use in games apparently is going to be Miami Dolphins themed, which I am very, very confused by. I mean, I guess they're trying to tap into more of the American market, so to speak, maybe by trying to do that. I mean, if that's true, if that holds true, I don't understand what those colors and what that scheme has to do with Inter Miami. Why not do
That's
pink
a
and
horrible
black
idea.
vertical lines, or et cetera, et cetera. But we'll get there later. Because we're going long. It's already been over an hour. We've still got a couple things to talk about. Jose, let's quickly switch gears to the regular season schedule. This is it. And I know this graphic that Inter Miami put out doesn't make it the most easy to figure out or to read through, but Inter Miami starts its regular season with a midweek match. A midweek match, Jose, on Wednesday, February, 21st? Is that 21st? Yes. Against Real Salt Lake. After that, they go away to the LA Galaxy on the 25th. They return home for a March 2nd, an early season Sunshine Clásico, El Clásico del Sol against rivals Orlando City. Then they get into Champions Cup. Then they play Montreal, and the games go on and go on and go on. All right, Jose. I mean, we're not going to dive into the whole season schedule right now. We can do that, later on as we get closer to the season as well, especially when we start talking about preseason. But what are your initial thoughts on that schedule? What stands out to you?
I haven't put a lot of thought into it because I just happen to believe this year in particular, the MLS regular season means absolutely nothing for Inter Miami. It's just about playing games, about getting ready. If they finish up in first or in sixth place, doesn't really matter. They should be able to win games, when it matters, at home or on the road. So, I mean, if I'm an Inter Miami fan, I'm happy that they sacrifice, half of the regular season and, just concentrate on winning Champions Cup and winning US Open Cup, getting back to the final at least on that, because, US Open Cup can be tricky. You're not going to play your starters early on, so you might end up losing a game that you shouldn't. But if you do win those early rounds and you end up in the final, you have to win a Champions Cup. Those are tournaments that are a lot bigger than the regular season. They're a lot more important. I mean, Champions Cup gets you to the Club World Cup. That's 1,000% more important than finishing in third place in the East. It means nothing. It means nothing. The Supporter Shield means absolutely nothing.
I can't say that the regular season means nothing. I think it means something. And what I think it means, it matters for playoff seeding and positioning. Inter Miami is not going to want to go into the playoffs being a low seed and having to play away from home. They're going to want that home crowd.
They are the better team. If they have all the players ready, they are the better team.
You still would rather play at home. You would still rather play at home. I think what Inter Miami will do
for commercial purposes, maybe.
I think Inter Miami will try to finish, top four. They would like to have some home field advantage in the playoffs. I think that's what the regular season matters for mostly. Course. I don't think. I mean, the rest of it, like you said, I agree to an extent that yes, the overall, point of the regular season isn't to finish first. I mean, if they can while also managing minutes, great. But if they don't, then it's not the end of the world. They need and they want MLS Cup, and I imagine Champions Cup as well, because that puts them into the Club World Cup.
Look, you don't want to be Cincinnati this year. You want to be Columbus. I think that's the easiest way to explain my point. You can be Cincinnati and be great in the regular season and break all types of records and do whatever you want. But if you don't win the league, it's not a successful year. If you have Messi, you have to win everything. You have to win everything. You don't have to win every game. You have to win every tournament. Yes, you have to win them all. You have to win them all.
No, disagree. I don't think that if they win MLS Cup and they win Champions Cup, if they didn't win the Open Cup, that the season's going to be considered a failure.
It's not going to be considered a failure, but they are expected
MLS
to win
MLS Cup and Champions Cup. That will determine if they win one of those two. I think you can call the season a success. I think MLS Cup is, and while Champions Cup gives them, puts them into the Club World Cup, I think they have to win MLS Cup.
Why?
I
Why
think they
would you rather have MLS Cup than Champions Cup? Champions Cup is
because
an
that's what puts a
international
star over the
tournament.
crest, man. That's what puts. See, now you're going to your now you're being a member of Inter Miami's marketing team because the star that goes above the crest is for MLS Cup. I think that is the most important cup that they can play because they haven't won one yet.
No way.
If they had won one before, then that's a different story. They haven't won one yet.
No
I think
way.
that's the most important cup. If they can win
there's a reason why Real Madrid wants to win Champions League every year.
Also, because they dominate the league. They've dominated the league alongside of Barcelona for
every team
decades.
In the top leagues, they rather have the Champions League than have a league
You're
title.
talking about a team that's existed for 5 years. You cannot make that comparison. It's not.
Well, I'm just saying, winning an international competition will always be more important than winning the league.
In this case, no. If they win the Champions Cup, but they don't win MLS Cup, I don't think the season can be viewed as an outright success.
What's harder?
Cup,
if you want the star in your crest, what's harder to get? A Champions Cup star or an MLS Cup star? What's harder to get?
The Champions Cup star, in theory, although some of these CONCACAF teams, sorry, Jose, including some of your Honduran ones, are terrible. So let's not act like, there's some elite level soccer that's being played here internationally in CONCACAF because
that's where you're competing. I mean, if you want to have better quality, you want to have better opponents, then you probably shouldn't be an Inter Miami fan because I mean, there's no way that Inter Miami will play Copa Libertadores.
My point is, season can't be a success for me if they don't win MLS Cup. That's what's going to be the barometer. That is the gauge, the measuring stick in.
And Leagues Cup it's an afterthought, right?
Leagues Cup doesn't matter. Leagues Cup, they've already won that, and that's my whole point. They've won that, so it doesn't matter. They haven't won an MLS Cup, and the point is to have Messi help lift that first MLS Cup to be in esa foto, just like he was in Leagues Cup. I think
let's just agree that they need to win those tournaments. I mean, those are the two most important tournaments. I think we can agree on that, right?
Yes.
I mean, Champions Cup and MLS Cup should be the two most important things. If Leagues Cup happens to come by and you win it back-to-back, so be it, and then Open Cup after whatever happens in the first couple of rounds. But I still think they need to go for Open Cup and Champions Cup early on, and then battle back in league play. If they have to, maybe they do good enough, during the first few months of the regular season. I mean, it's not ideal, to start a home midweek match, then go to the West Coast and then come back. So, but
I think
they'll be used to traveling. That's for sure.
That's the point of that's a good answer to the question, right? What stands out to me most about the schedule? I think the early impression is that start. It's just a rare start. It's an unusual start. I can't remember the last time I've covered MLS now for over a decade. 13 seasons, maybe. I can't remember a time that a team that I covered started a game midweek, or started a season, midweek, an MLS season that had Champions League games as they were known then or during midweek. But a regular season starting on a Wednesday, that seems unusual. It is unusual. Yeah. And then to play Orlando in the third game of the season, which is a rival at home, I think that's also a bit unusual and weird. I don't know. Something about the schedule just seems, initial impressions seem a little bit off. Something's weird about the schedule.
But it's not going to matter. See, this is my point with the regular season. If they end up winning one of those 3 games, does it really matter? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. But if you end up losing 2 games in Champions Cup, that means you're out of the tournament. So, that's what really matters early on. And it's just that regular season, especially when you have a playoff format, it's so forgiving that you really need to be smart about.
Sure, absolutely. Yes. But that's what I'm saying. Top 4 finish, I think that's what they'll be gunning for. They might not say that publicly. They'll say, we want to finish top.
Oh, yeah, we want to win everything. Yeah.
But I think if, you sit in their meetings or you put a little microphone or a little hidden camera in those meetings, I think they'll be like, yeah, we'll take top 4 finish in the East. Get us some home field advantage, and we'll go from there. All right, Jose, very quickly to round out this show. We haven't heard a whole lot about player personnel changes. Haven't heard any new additions. There's been rumors about Marcos Rojo. There's been reports about Julian Gressel. We still haven't had an official report or communication about official press release about Chris Henderson extending his stay, but he's still operating in the capacity he's been in, as far as we know. The biggest one that seems to has the most traction behind it is Julian Gressel, who has played under Tata Martino before. He just won MLS Cup with the Columbus Crew. Not the best defender, but certainly someone that can push forward into the attack from that right wing back spot and can whip in some very good service with that right foot. He can also play midfield, but I don't think they're bringing him here or looking at bringing him here to play in the midfield. I think they're looking at to bring him here to play that right wing back spot in Tata's preferred 5-man backline, which I think is what we're going to see for much of this year.
I agree.
So that means that's interesting, right? So let's talk really quickly about that because we can save the Chris Henderson talk for later. If Julian Gressel comes in, he's a starter on this team.
Yeah.
So what does that mean for DeAndre Yedlin? That's a two-part question. What does Gressel bring? Well, we talked about that a little bit. And what does that mean for DeAndre Yedlin?
Well, I think with Gressel, there's a situation where he knows Tata knows him really well, and I think that's enough for me. And I would trust, if I'm Chris Henderson, if Tata is telling me we need this guy, we want this guy, we should get this guy. Because if there's one thing that Tata did last year is put all the pieces together in a way that they fit what he wants on the field and what he needs for Messi to be successful. So Gressel, for me, I mean, it's not going to be. He's not going to grab a lot of media attention. I mean, we're not going to be requesting Gressel every week, like we'll probably be with Busquets, Suarez, and all the big names. But I think he's going to fit the role. And for DeAndre Yedlin, I think there's a market for him out there in MLS. So,
but his days at Inter Miami are numbered.
Yes, but I'm sure they can get something from him.
Why? Why are his days at Inter Miami numbered? Why is the team ready to move on from DeAndre Yedlin if that's what we're reading into this potential move for Julian Gressel?
I think it's two things. I think he's not doing enough offensively other than making runs. He's obviously very good moving forward, but defensively, he wasn't up to the cut this year. Yeah, and I think that was part of the problem for Inter Miami defensively. I don't go back necessarily to the center backs. I go back to the left wing back and the right wing back. I think they move forward really well, but when it comes down to tracking back, I think that's where they have trouble. And, that's why they got exposed. And I think that's the problem.
I don't know I don't know if I fully agree with that. Like, I agree that, there's goals that are DeAndre Yedlin's fault this season because he didn't do a good enough job of marking his man or following his runner, not, ball watching a little too much. And I think that that's one of the reasons why they're ready to move on from him, because defensively he just wasn't up to snuff. Like, maybe he should have been. He wasn't where he needed to be. I agree with you in the attack. While he projects forward very well and he serves as an outlet pass, still not overall dangerous enough in that final third. Yeah. And I think
he doesn't score.
Well, he doesn't score, and he doesn't really get that many assists. Yeah. I mean, I'd have to look at his numbers to really know, but he doesn't give them enough in the attack, and I don't think he fits the model that Tata Martino wants to play. I think Julian Gressel, again, who has played under Tata Martino, who is a better crosser of the ball, nowhere near as fast, but a better crosser of the ball, more polished in possession. I think he fits Tata Martino's view of what they want to do this year. And I don't think DeAndre Yedlin does. I've said that since the end of last year and the second half of last year. I thought his days were numbered. I think, Seattle's a very likely home for him because that's where he's played. It's where he grew up. It's where he has family. I think that's where he will end up. Now it's a matter of what Inter Miami gets back for him. Maybe he ends up at another MLS team, but I would put my money on the Seattle Sounders. It's just a matter of what Inter Miami gets back for him. There's definitely they should get some compensation. Although if Seattle does their job well, or whoever does their job well, they're going to be like, well, we know you don't need him, so we're not going to give him up. We're not going to take him. We're not going to give up a lot for him. Sorry.
That's where if you grab some more interest from someplace else in the league, then that's something that you can.
That's
work
where you
out.
use it as
your leverage.
Right, that's your leverage. You got to have teams competing against each other for Yedlin.
Right. And then, one more thing that makes me think that, Gressel, you talked about the pace, obviously DeAndre, it's that's his main asset really. And I don't think Inter Miami needs that right now, because they're going to be a possession based team. They're going to want to slow things down. So they don't want players running up and down the field constantly through the
They're gonna
wings.
need some speed though. You can't be a.
They're going to need some, but they don't need at the the level of speed that DeAndre
I think
provides.
it has more to do. It doesn't have to do with the speed or not speed. I think it has more to do with his player profile, and that's that he's just not a player that's overly positive in possession. It's not great in possession. This year, look, he started 25 regular season games. He had 28 appearances overall in regular season. He had 5 assists. And MLS is a very flattering league in terms of recording stats because they give secondary assists. So I don't know how many of those assists are
Probably
secondary compared to primary assists or direct assists. But it's still not enough for a team like Inter Miami that wants to attack. Now, half the season was with Phil Neville.
And he moved forward a lot, though. With both coaches, really. I mean, DeAndre moves forward a lot.
He projects forward very well.
Yeah.
He's an outlet pass often and regularly, but he's not good enough in possession to combine regularly, to be a threat, to make those runs in behind, to feed teammates with clear-cut balls in the final third. He doesn't have that. It's not part of his game.
Right.
So, and for Inter Miami, with them wanting to be this offensively overwhelming team, I think Julian Gressel is a better fit, and I think that again. I think the writing's been on the wall for a while now that DeAndre Yedlin's numbers were, number was on the wall, or his days were counted here. Despite him being a good leadership guy and help setting the culture and being a fantastic quote with us. I think just from a player fit standpoint, just doesn't make sense for what they want to do. And I would disagree because I think we're going to see this even with Julian Gressel this year. This past season, Inter Miami, yes, gave up some goals because the fullbacks or the wingbacks weren't doing a good enough job. But I think Inter Miami struggled with Tata, especially to find the balance between being this possession-based attack-minded team and being a team that can, thwart the counterattacks that are inevitable when you play a high line. Like, I don't think they had the center backs nor maybe the shape consistently enough to do the job. Like they just couldn't find the right combination. When they went to a back 4, they would get exposed. When they went to a back 5, it was the combination of center backs. Were they all having a good day? Were they all in sync? I think that's where they struggled more than just the wing backs just being completely to blame for a lot of the goals. They have their share of the goals, but I think it's just more of a function of the team as opposed to just individual mistakes in players just being repeat offenders.
Now I have a question for you.
Okay, all right, because we're about to wrap up.
Yes. So if Marcos Rojo signs with Inter Miami, as it is reported in so many outlets in Argentina, what happens with Christoph? I think he's the odd man out. Not talking about. Yeah. I'm talking about starting lineup, right? Not talking about because we know there's the Christopher McVay and Ryan Sailors of the world, which we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but they're not going to compete.
Because your question's if it's true that Marcos Rojo's coming, and I don't have any inside information on that. If it's true, I don't think Sergio. I don't think Sergio Christoph. Maybe he is Sergio by now.
Maybe yes. I was thinking the same thing. We should call him Sergio one time and see if he responds.
Well, I don't know if we're gonna get that chance, my friend, because I don't only think he falls out of the lineup if Rojo comes. I think he falls out of this team entirely. I think there's going to be a market for him. He's a good defender, very good defender. He can do a job for some team in this league, but again, I don't think he's a player that fits what Tata Martino wants to do. Because at the end of the season,
in South Florida.
At the end of the season, you saw it was Kamal Miller and Tomas Aviles getting starts together in the back 4.
Well, we know Tata loves Toto. If that makes sense. Tata loves Toto.
There you go. So I think it's going to be, let me compose myself. I think it's going to be, if you speak Spanish, you'll probably understand that reference. If you don't, I'm not going to bother to say it because it's not even worth bringing up. Maybe it is. I don't know. Kamal Miller and Toto Aviles are the 1 and 2, in my perspective from how Tata Martino sees his depth chart. I think Sergio Kristoff just doesn't fit the mold. Sergio Kristoff had some massive games, tremendous games. I thought he was immense in the League's Cup final, but I just don't think he fits what they want. He's not fast enough. Is he clean enough on the ball? He can be, but not consistently enough. I think that they are going to look to upgrade that position. I think it's just a matter of finding who comes in, and I think Kristoff is going to go out. I don't think he sticks around. Yeah. I don't think, with the money he's on, the experience he's at, someone could use him somewhere in the league, and Inter Miami can get something back for him. So, Jose, let's leave it there. We've talked for a good bit. I try to avoid the hour-and-a-half shows, but, we haven't talked for a month. Pretty hard to do. So, anything else you want to add here? We should be back. I don't want to say next week, but we'll definitely be back before preseason starts, which that would mean
next week,
late next week or early the following. But anything else you want to add, Jose, before we wrap up the show and wrap up 2023?
Yeah, no, I just want to wish everybody watching Happy New Year. Hopefully we get to enjoy one more season of Inter Miami. I mean, I think we can't complain about 2023. It's been awesome, and I'm just glad that we get to do this. I'm going to be here a lot more. Not that it really matters, but I'll try because it's fun for me. Just want to wish everybody a happy New Year.
Diva. The diva of Miami Total Football is Jose Armando.
No. So happy New Year, guys.
I will share and echo those thoughts. Thank you guys for listening in 2023. We obviously changed the setup from strictly audio to now visual. You get to see our ugly mugs now, which I don't know if that's impacting our numbers in a great way, but nonetheless, here we are. So, thank you guys for sticking with us through another year. It was interesting to see the change, and it coincided with Messi's arrival. So obviously, it's been a memorable 2023. We thank you guys for tuning in. Have a happy New Year, however you choose to celebrate. We will be back very soon for more Inter Miami talk, analysis, discussion. If you haven't already, please give us a follow, a subscribe, a like on all our social media channels, especially here on YouTube. It helps us out tremendously, and it doesn't cost you a thing. People have always said, why don't you monetize the channel? Why don't you monetize what you're doing on these social media platforms? And I refuse to try to charge any of you guys a penny. It's just not my approach. So all you have to do is just give us a like, comment, a share, subscribe. That's all I ask from you guys. So Happy New Year. We will talk in 2024. That does it for 2023. Another Inter Miami season and year in the books. So for Jose Armando, I am Franco Panizo. You have been listening to Miami Total Football. No, it didn't come out. Radio. It didn't come out again. Radio. There we go. Got it out finally. All right, guys. We will talk to you guys in 2024.